Hey guys, welcome back. This is me, Sahil Mahajan. And in the previous video, we spoke about what is AWS S3 bucket and how can you create an S3 bucket. We also spoke a little bit about storage classes. So in today's video, we're basically going to cover the various different storage classes that are provided by Amazon S3. So we're going to look through the documentation that is provided by AWS so that if in the future or while you're going through this video, you want something to reference, you can also open the documentation side by side and go through. And I'm going to show you guys how easy it is. You guys can understand the documentation. So there are various different S3 storage classes that we have. These storage classes are basically according to your use cases, according to how frequently you need to access the data. Maybe it's on a daily basis, maybe it's like few times a month, few times every 6 months, maybe once a year, twice a year, or maybe even less than that. Or maybe you need to store such data for compliance or governance related requirements. So, archiving data, or you want to store backup files that you may not use, but you do need them. So there are various different storage classes. Just going over them, we have S3 standard, intelligent tiering, standard infrequent access, that is standard IA, one zone infrequent access, Glacier instant retrieval, Glacier flexible retrieval, and finally we have Glacier deep archive. So let's start off with Amazon S3 standard. Maybe I could zoom in a bit so you guys can see. Perfect. So Amazon S3 standard is the standard bucket and storage size when you create a bucket, unless you specify something else. What this basically does is it has a few key features that in the best use of S3 standard is when you want to access files on a daily basis, multiple times a day, or maybe multiple times a week, and which it has a few key features like it has low latency and high throughput performance. It is designed for durability. It has 11 nines of durability. It is resilient against events that impact an entire availability zone. It is designed for a 99.99% availability. And it provides you millisecond access to your data. Moving on, we're coming to our second um, storage class. This comes under the category of unknown or changing access. What does unknown or changing access relate to? It relates to that you do not know what's going to happen with your data. Some files, some objects may be used a lot, some may not be used a lot, some are not accessed at all, and such things. So you have no idea about when what file is required, or you don't have any idea about your objects, and they are changing continuously. So that's where Amazon intelligent tiering comes into place. It is the first cloud storage that automatically reduces your storage costs on a granular object level by automatically moving data to the most cost effective access tier based on your access frequency without performance impact, retrieval fees, or operational overhead. Again, let's move a bit forward. Amazon S3 intelligent tiering delivers millisecond latency and high throughput, which basically means you require a file, you get that file within a few milliseconds. Moving on, we're going to speak about a few key features. You can move them to frequent, infrequent, archive, instant access tiers. And again, you can also uh, lower your cost while having high throughput and low latency. So it basically speaks about how you can reduce your storage costs by moving your data to different access tiers. And let's move down to infrequent access. Infrequent access, the first one that we have is Amazon S3 Standard Infrequent Access, which is also known as S3 Standard IA. This is basically for data that is accessed less frequently, but when you do require access to that data, you get that access in a few milliseconds. So it has a low storage price per GB, and it also has a low storage for retrieval compared to your standard. And a few advantages of this is, again, you have that same low latency and high throughput that you get in Amazon standard. You get the 11 nines of durability. It's resilient against events that impact an entire availability zone and is designed for 99.9% availability. So the availability is a bit less than your S3 standard. And what are the benefits over the S3 standard? In a cost point of view, you are paying a bit less for storage and you're also paying a bit less for retrieval charges. Then you have your Amazon S3 one zone infrequent access, which is also known as S3 one zone IA. So why it's basically the same as your standard IA. The only difference is that when you create a standard IA or anything else, your what do you say? Uh, Data is stored in a minimum of three different availability zones, whereas in S3 one zone, all of your data is only stored in one zone, which basically reduces your cost by 20%. As you can see, S3 one zone IA stores data in a single availability zone and costs 20% less than storage than S3 standard IA. So assuming that you want to store your data in just one zone with the infrequent access, you can opt for this and you're getting almost the same features that you get for a standard IA, but the availability is a bit less than your standard IA. Moving on, we have our archive subtopic. This is basically for data that is required quite less. That means maybe once a year, twice a year, or once every other month, or maybe once a month, and related. So first coming up we have is our Amazon S3 Glacier Instant Retrieval. What this basically does is it provides you a low cost of storage, but it provides you retrieval in milliseconds. So basically, you are getting that same S3 standard low throughput, high throughput and low latency, and you can save up to 68% on storage costs compared to your S3 infrequent access. And the best use case for this is when your data is accessed once per quarter. So if you have any data that is accessed about once per quarter, you can use the Amazon S3 Glacier Instant Retrieval. Coming up to a few key features, as I've spoken before, you can retrieve your data in a few milliseconds, same with the same performance as Amazon S3. You get the same durability of 11 nines. It is resilient against any destruction on one entire availability zone. It has a 99.9% data availability. And another thing is that you need to store at least an object that has 128 KB size. Coming down to your Amazon S3 Glacier Flexible Retriever, which is also known as S3 Glacier. This provides you even more lower cost, that is up to 10% lower than your Amazon S3 Instant Retrieval. What is the best use case for these is that when you want to access your data maybe one or two times per year, that is the best way that you can access this data. And what happens is that um, to balance the costs out, your time to retrieve your data takes anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours. So you do not get instant access to a data. You would have to wait for a few minutes or maybe a few hours to access your data. Hence, it says that this is the most suitable for accessing one to two times per year is because you are paying less storage costs. Agreed. But if you have to access some file quite a lot of times and it is stored in your Amazon S3 Glacier flexible retrieval, your retrieval cost will automatically come back and increase your costs. Hence why only store any data that requires only once to twice maybe, or maybe three or four times read per year. Coming to its few key features, it again provides you 9 levels of durability, resilient, supports SSL, and the most ideal is basically backup and used for disaster recovery. And yeah, again, you can retrieve your data within a few minutes or few hours, and you have free bulk retrievals wherein it takes a bit from minutes to hours to retrieve. Finally, coming to our last and final storage class, that is the Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive. This is the lowest cost storage class that is provided by Amazon S3. You will be saving a lot of money on the storage basis. And this is most advisable wherein you need to retain data for maybe 7 to 10 years or longer to meet regulatory compliance requirements or governance. What happens is you're paying very less charge for your storage, but when you want to access this data, the costs do be a bit high. And you do not receive instant access to your data. It takes you up to 12 hours to retrieve your data. So for example, right now, as you can see, it's 10:50 p.m. I request access for some file. It can take anywhere from 10:50 p.m. to tomorrow 10:50 a.m. for those XYZ files to be ready. Hence why we normally store things related to uh, backups or maybe not recovery, I would say backups or any log files that you need to store or anything for compliance purposes that we know that we are not going to access maybe on a yearly basis, maybe once every 2 3 years or even less than that. Those type of files, those type of objects are stored in Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So I hope that you guys have got a bit more understanding about the different storage classes. If you guys haven't got a good grasp of it, you can watch the video once again. Also, you can go through this documentation. I will leave the link in the description so you guys can go through it. I'm sure you'll completely understand everything. Also, on top of that, we will be implementing um, these various storage classes, and I will show you guys how does this work in a production environment. So hope you guys did like this theoretical video. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and do subscribe. If there are any further topics you would like me to cover, please make sure to put them down in the comments. Hope you guys have a great day ahead. Take care. See ya. Bye bye.